For over 200 years, the Gurkha soldier has been a fearless and formidable part of the British Army. Their courage and skill in battle is legendary. But how did men who lived thousands of miles away from Britain come to be such an integral part of its fighting force for over 2 centuries? But before we get stuck in, a quick 30-second word from my sponsors. The team over at Wartime T-Shirts and myself have partnered up to offer you 10% off any order with the code A Few Minutes of History. There is a T-shirt for nearly every period of military history out there, and when you buy a T-shirt, Wartime T-Shirts will send one to a veteran in need. Use the code A Few Minutes of History at checkout to receive 10% off your order now. The link and more information will be in the description and the comments section. Now, back to the main story. The British Empire first encountered the Gurkhas of Nepal in around 1814 during the Anglo-Nepalese War. The British were impressed with the Gurkha soldiers' tenacity on the battlefield, as well as their impressive conduct off it. The British began unofficially recruiting them into their ranks. When the Anglo-Nepalese conflict ended in 1816, a treaty was signed. Britain and Nepal entered an official relationship, a relationship which has stayed true to this day. As time went by, the Gurkha soldier became a crucial part of the British Army, and their reputation grew with every passing conflict. Often, the Gurkha regiments were the first selected when a crisis rose in India or the frontiers that needed military intervention. At the turn of the 20th century, warfare was evolving, but the loyalty of the Gurkha soldier remained true. And during the First World War, over 100,000 Gurkhas fought for Britain on the Western Front as well as in the Middle East and at Gallipoli. Gurkha regiments received hundreds of gallantry awards, including 2 Victoria Crosses. Around 20,000 of them became casualties in the conflict. As time passed and the Second World War started, over 110,000 Gurkhas fought for Britain. They fought with incredible vigour and tenacity in a brutal war against the Japanese in the Far East, as well as in the Italian campaign and in the Western Desert. Hundreds more gallantry awards were given to Gurkhas, including 10 Victoria Crosses. Nearly 30,000 Gurkhas were killed or wounded during the Second World War. After India was granted its independence after the Second World War, the Gurkha units under British rule were split. 4 stayed under British command and 6 others became allocated to the Indian Army. Those that stayed under British command continued to take part in conflicts all over the world, including the Malayan Incident and the Falklands War, where during an attack on Mount William, Gurkha troops were disappointed to find the Argentinians defending the hill, rushing towards the Scots Guards to surrender rather than take on the Gurkha troops, for their legendary skill in battle had caused fear and panic amongst the terrified Argentinian conscripts. They served without falter in Kosovo, Cyprus, Sierra Leone, Iraq, Afghanistan and everywhere the army's been, and they continue to be a hugely valuable asset to the British Armed Forces. And every year, tens of thousands of men, and now women, attempt gruelling tests for just a few hundred places and the chance to follow in their forefathers' footsteps. Most men and boys in Nepal possess the famous kukri knife, and those in service are provided with one from which they are never separated. A popular myth arose that every time a kukri is drawn from its scabbard, it must shed blood. The likelihood of this myth is probably due to the fact that if a Gurkha is drawing his kukri, the chances are it will draw blood. The current Gurkha motto is, "It is better to die than be a coward," and they certainly live up to that motto. That just about wraps up my video on the brief history of the famed Gurkha warriors. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe and drop me a comment. If you serve with the Gurkhas or have a relative that has, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Cheery bye.